All right, welcome everyone to episode 26 of the Ninja Wealth Exchange. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about what school never taught you about money and wealth. So, before I get into that, as you can see, I am solo today. So, running the show solo for the first time. See how that goes here. Johnny's a little bit tied up at the moment. So, before I get into this show, it's going to be a good one, by the way. But I wanted to share, we are coming with a live event coming soon here, June 26th in the Twin Cities here. If you are interested, it is going to be a mastermind event. Basically, anybody who's listening to the show, who knows what we're about, just really sharing strategies about talking, real wealth building strategies, no fluff. We're not here to sell you anything. Don't worry, you don't have to show up with your credit card. We're not going to upsell you anything. So it's just going to be a great event for anybody who's really interested about building wealth through real estate, and going to have a couple speakers share their strategies. So if you're interested in all, sign up. There's a QR code here in my background, which my microphone is blocking. So let me see here, see if I can fix that a little bit. There you go. So hopefully, as you can see, my microphone keeps creeping up to block it, but feel free to pause the screen or go to our link there, and it'll also be in the show notes here, but you can sign up there. So with that said, we'll get on with the show here. So real quick, today's show, right, we're going to be talking about what really school didn't teach you about wealth and money, right? And so a lot of this, I like to say, don't let school get in the way of your education, right? And so, unfortunately, if you were like me and you went to school, everybody told you, hey, here's what you got to do, here's the path, right? Which is get good grades, go to college, right? You got to go to college. Or back then, degrees were everything, right? Not so sure about today. So, and then of course you got to get a good degree and get that job, and then you're set for the rest of your life, right? That was the plan. And that was the plan if you wanted to have a good life, right? And probably most of us followed it. Some of us didn't. But, once you get into the workforce, the real world, right, you become an adult, you find out real quick that things are a lot different than that simple plan, right? So, something they don't teach you, right? Maybe sometime along the way, when you were trying to pick what job you wanted to do, right, back in high school, I'm sure you guys probably might have had that experience where you're sitting in school in class one day, the guidance counselor comes in and asks the whole class, or maybe one-on-one, hey, what do you want to do with your life, right? What job do you want, right? Or are you going to go to college? What are you going to major in, right? And so a lot of the times, we've seen these lists, right? Every year, a new career list comes out, right, with all the top paying jobs, right? All the top paying jobs based on degrees. So you will see, most of the times it's engineering at the top, right? Most paid, some type of engineering, a medical, or law, right? So those are usually at the top. And as a teenager, you really probably don't even really have much of an idea of what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So, of course, a lot of us probably going to try to pick something based on the dollars that are off to the right. But what they don't teach is that, a lot of these jobs on that list, they're all just jobs, right? There's nothing on that list that is self-employed or own your own business, right? Or anything of that nature, right? Everything on that list usually is you are an employee, right? You work for a company, and which isn't a bad thing, by the way. I'm not trying to knock that. Um, I used to be an engineer myself, so I went through this whole path, right? So I'm speaking from personal experience here, but there's a lot of things they don't tell you, right, until you find out. So I went down the whole path, not knowing that there's other options, right? And so what ultimately ended up happening, I got my engineering degree, worked as an engineer for over 10 years. Um, right out of school, pretty quickly, maybe my second year in the professional workforce. When you're young, you have this dream about climbing the corporate ladder, all this stuff, right? Well, one day I got called to my boss's office and got handed a box and said, "Hey, you got to hit the road," right? And so, really, you learn real quick what real life is like, and that you really don't have much control about your job, when it might end, things like that, right? Your income, right? That feeling of safety coming every week, whether you get paid every week or every 2 weeks, right? Um, that feeling of a W two being safe, right? It's not that safe, right? Your job's in jeopardy anytime the economy changes, right? So you find out real quick, right, that you got to somehow create your own income, right? Or you got to be willing to accept that, hey, you could lose a job at any point, right? So, along with being in the workforce, my time there, I mean, had big goals to climb the corporate ladder, right? Go from entry level engineer to mid level management, all that stuff. But even that stuff, it's very bureaucratic, right? There's a whole thing about, hey, favoritism, right? You kind of figure out that the game's kind of rigged, right? So, and of course, every year you get your 2 to 3% raise if you're lucky, right? And if you're really good at what you do, maybe 5%, 10%, something like that, right? But at the end of the day, you are really just a number, especially a lot of these mega corporations, right? So, it is very challenging sometimes that the W two kind of gives you a feeling of like, yeah, it's secure, but it's almost like it's a false sense of security, really. The golden handcuffs, right? You get to a certain level of income, right? And you may not want to leave that, right? Especially if you've been through what some similar story that I've been through, right? Where you have the opportunity to start your own business and you decide to take things in your own control. I mean, that's kind of the next step, right? Is the risk, right? Like, hey, do I really want to leave this comfy, cushy W two job where I get a check every 2 weeks to go do something that I may not see a check for the next month, maybe 2, 3, 6 months, a year, possibly, right? So it is very risky to, of course, start your own business, be self-employed, and all that stuff. But that is the reality of things, and it's all on perspective, right? So something you can think of is that, yeah, it is definitely risky, right, to start your own business, but at the same time, the upside is amazing, right? Like, if it does happen to um, work out, right, your business, whatever you're doing, right? Um, if your business succeeds, I mean, the amount of income that you would earn is pretty much, it's up to you to, how hard you want to work, right? Um, a lot of like I mentioned, a lot of people, you don't realize that as a W two employee, you are just trading your time for money, right? And your time is finite, right? Most people are working 40 hours, right? Now, you can only get paid so much a year because there's only so much time that you're going to be at work, right? Even if you do overtime, right? There's only so much time, right? And so something that you don't realize when you go the self-employed route, right? Whether you're going to open up a retail shop, a restaurant, or even be like us, like a real estate agent, right? In sales. And that's something that, a lot of people don't even have never thought of that they would be in sales, just like me. How does an introvert engineer, get from that to become a real estate sales agent, right? It's quite a long process. Could talk to you about that one on one, but yeah, it's quite the jump when you realize it, and there is a lot of things that we don't know, right? Growing up, going to school, they don't teach you that, oh, by the way, when you become a W 2 employee, you're going to be in the highest type of taxed income, right? Meaning that if you don't understand this concept, tax now versus tax later, right? So as you understand, if you're in the U.S. or whatever country you're in, the minute you're born, you're assigned a partnership number, right? That's your social security number. And so any income that you produce in your lifetime, you are going to get taxed on it, right? Your silent partner, Uncle Sam, is going to take some of your profits, correct? So you're going to lose it to things like, social security, um, what is it, FICA, right? All those things that show up in your pay stub, right? So when you get paid, I mean, the government's already taking their money. They're already taking their cut, right? So you're getting taxed now, right? And then that same whatever's left over, you get, and then you go and buy other things that you're going to get taxed on too, right? Your sales tax and all that stuff. So fantastic, right? So you're getting taxed up front. So something that I didn't realize until I started to get into the self-employed space, right? As a real estate agent, you earn commission, right? So um, we we don't get taxed until after. So when we get paid, right, we get our full commission, right, minus our company, our broker split, whatever, right? So minus all that, we do get our full check, right? And so the government doesn't tax us yet. So the way it's set up, the tax system set up, the government says, okay, we understand that it takes money to make money, right? And you are running your own business, right? Um, so what we're going to let you do, we're going to let you keep all your income right now, and you can go spend that money on things like your cell phone bill, your internet bill, your CRM, your marketing efforts, right? Whatever you need to generate income for your business, that's a legit business expense. We'll let you have all of your income to do that right now at this point, and we'll collect taxes later on your net profit, right? So after you deduct all your expenses, which is something that is, probably pretty foreign to a W 2 employee, right? So if you're a W 2 employee your whole life, some of your money's already gone, right? Like 20% maybe, right? Before it even hits your bank account, right? Before you even know. So that's one of the biggest benefits of being a 1099 or being self-employed or running your own business, right? So that is something that, is very powerful, right? It allows you to use your income um, to the most that you can, right? And in addition, right, I was talking earlier about W-2s. I mean, you're trading your time for money. Being self-employed, and you know, uh, it's no longer you're no longer trading really dollar per hour. You're selling a product, you're selling something, right? A service in the real estate agent business. um, the more that you can sell, the more that you can earn, right? And so now your income is not capped. You're not capped at dollars per hour. Your income earnings, depends on how many widgets you can sell, right? And all that stuff. If you and it doesn't even matter anymore. You could probably sell. You could set up an online store. Sales could be happening while you're sleeping, right? Now that's super powerful, right? If you have something that you could sell while you're not actually putting the time in to be there, that's where you can really multiply, right? And your incomes really start to go. So that's huge, and that's something that, if if you were raised very similar, where your parents weren't business owners, they didn't know anything about it, right? Like Johnny and I, we both came from poverty, right? Immigrant parents to the new country. We have no idea. They have no idea. They never taught us any of this stuff, right? So, I mean, a lot of the times, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? So, um, now that we're both in this space where we're self-employed, Johnny owns his own business, as well as being a mortgage brokerage owner, right? So now he's in control of his business, right? And same with me. I mean, as a real estate agent, some people think that we're kind of like just we work for a brokerage, right? But even then, I mean, the brokerage doesn't do much for us, right? It's still our business. To generate leads, to get closings, it's all on us. The broker is not really providing us much, much anything else, right? So, um, you know, taking that leap, like I said, though, from W-2 to 1099, it's a big mind shift set, and it's a big risk, right? I'm sure a lot of starting your own business, it's a failure rate of nine, right? Nine out of 10 businesses you're going to create are going to fail, right? So, I mean, even me myself, making that transition from saying, "Hey, I'm going to quit this engineering gig, and I'm going to go full time as a real estate agent," it was a big decision, right? And it's like, it's not an easy thing to do. But I took baby steps to do it. I started part time as an agent, kind of prove the system, right? And then prove to myself that I could make this a real business. I could really make some real money. I mean, I got to the point where I was making as much as my regular job, right? And at that point, I was like, this is no brainer, right? I can do this, right? And then it seemed easy at the time, even then. But then once I cut off that umbilical cord to the W-2 job, where the checks stopped coming in, right? And now it's all on you and your ability to produce on your business. That's a different type of pressure, right? And if you've never been in that situation, you probably won't understand, right? Um, so that's something that's totally different, and some people will probably do well, and some people will probably fail under that type of pressure, right? Um, but if you stick to it, you believe that you can do it. I mean, it's quite amazing. I can tell you that, speaking for myself personally, I've made the most I've ever made as an agent, right? And I've made more quicker being self-employed than I probably ever could, quite honestly, working for somebody else, right? And that's just facts. And I know I know Johnny himself. I mean, I'm not going to talk his numbers, but he has very similar amount of success, levels of success, probably even more, right? Being a broker owner, all that. So the whole leap from W-2 1099, it's a game changer, right? So you really have to take a look at what you are missing out on, right? And sometimes, I mean, it really comes down to, you already know what the path is laid out in front of you as a W-2 employee. You know what that looks like. And if you're not willing to take the risk on yourself to bet on your business, right? It may come back to regrets later in your life, right? Um, the way I looked at it, I guess, was that, hey, if I do fail in my own business, being self-employed, worst thing that can happen, I go back to being an engineer. I can go get another job, right? So that's really something to think about, right? And of course, it's easier said than done. So um, now, other cool things about being in the 1099 space, right? Especially as a real estate agent, um, you can earn the coveted reps status, which means real estate professional status. So I'm not obviously I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax expert, but I know enough about this. But of course, you should talk to your CPA to confirm. This is all just for educational purposes. But once you get rep status, right, you can pretty much apply um, your passive losses against any active income, like W-2 income, right? So the thing with the rep status is that to become it's a real IRS tax status, real estate professional status. There's a number of requirements that you have to meet, right? So number one, 750 hours, right? You have to prove that majority of your business or your work is in real estate. You can't just become a real estate agent and all of a sudden you can claim reps. It doesn't work like that, right? You still have to actually prove that the majority of your business, your work, your time is spent in real estate. So, um, one of the best perks though is that if you are married to a high income earning spouse, right? High income earning W-2 job, one of you becomes or the other person becomes the agent, right? Obviously, the other person needs to do it. Um, but once you qualify for reps, right? Pretty much, if you also do things like invest in real estate, have other business expenses, stuff like that, depreciation losses, cost segregation, bonus depreciation, all these things can be applied. All these deductions can be applied against your spouse's W-2 active income, right? And so what that's going to do is it's going to lower your taxable income like significantly, right? And this is all legal, right? And if, of course, talk to your CPA, right? Um, so yeah, that's something that is really cool, right? And not a lot of people know about that. That's a huge thing that huge benefit of being self-employed. So one of the most common things, though, of course, when people look at wealth building, right, the richest people in the world, right, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, the common thing, they're all business owners, right? They're not job owners, right? Even people locally. Think of the people locally, right? The wealthiest people that locally who can do things on their own time. They probably own a business. Either they're self-employed or they own a business, right? And so, it's not a secret, right? But when you're in school, when you're growing up, they really don't teach these things. They don't teach how to be self-employed, right? How to start a business, how to run a business, right? Or tax strategies. They don't teach any of that, right? School really just teaches you to be an employee, to be a good employee, to obey orders, right? That's really what school does, right? That's just not true, right? They don't really like that when you don't follow the system, right? Creativity, things like that. I mean, even look at people like Mark Zuckerberg, right? Went to college, you know, decided to drop out, start his own business. What's the point of college? Right? I mean, of course, it's not the path for everyone, right? But that's why I say, I mean, even today, I said earlier, right? Like back then, college degrees were it was pushed so hard, right? Everybody went to college or tried to go to college. Um, but then everybody had degrees too. And so, of course, not all degrees are equal, but um, starting to be saturated. That's what I'm saying, right? So, um, but yeah, so those are the things that school doesn't really teach you, and you really just don't know until you get into the workforce. And being self-employed, it really opens your eyes to all the things that you didn't know, right? And unfortunately, unless you really have mentors, people in your life that are business owners to teach you and show you the way, there's really no shortcut, right? That is going to be the shortcut, to have a mentor and have people to learn from, right? But unfortunately, not all of us have that, right? So that's why one of the important things, for us to put together this podcast, to do this mastermind. I mean, that's really one of the things, right? Is that, hey, we want to share this stuff that we've learned, right? We want to help others, want to give back, help others become successful, to know what we didn't know, right? When we were coming up, learn from our mistakes, so you don't have to make the same one, right? So, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of this episode here. I pretty much covered everything so fast. It's, it's a really short episode when you're just the one talking. So, it's yeah, I mean, it's really powerful, to have that different mindset, to be open-minded, to learn that, hey, what are you missing out on, right? What are other people doing what are they doing that's making them successful and you're not doing, right? And so, if you're that type of person who's obviously listening to the show, and you attend events like masterminds, you get in rooms with other people that think like you, that want to do more, right? Then definitely you should probably check out our event. And again, the link will be dropped in the notes. But there's this QR code that my mic keeps covering up, and you can take a look at that and take a quick pause the screen and screenshot that. Otherwise, the link is tinyurl.com/NWE mastermind. So, I mean, yeah, this is a pretty short and sweet episode without Johnny long-winded talks that he usually gives. Makes the episode a lot shorter. So that's all I really had for today. So wow, yeah, it's really crazy how quickly all that went. So, but if you do have any questions, anything you want to ask about this or other things, feel free to reach out. We really appreciate you guys listening. And if this is helpful for you or other people that you know, hey, help us out. Hit that like button, share it out with others. We will definitely catch you in the next episode here. So thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great one.